Good day, traders. Hope you guys are good and welcome to my channel. If you're new to this channel, here we talk about everything Forex. So if you're interested in this type of content, make sure that you smash the subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell so that YouTube can notify you whenever I drop a new video. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. And I hope you enjoy today's video. Without wasting any time, we're going to start with our weekly market breakdown, starting on AUDUSD. Now, this is a continuation, or this is sort of like a follow-up on the previous analysis, which I think was a week or 2 weeks ago. So I'm not going to go from the weekly to the daily, right? Rather, I'm going to go from the daily to the 4-hour because it's an update. So if you still haven't watched that video, I'll drop a link to it in the description box below. But basically, my sentiments on AUD were bearish, basically, right? Now, for that sentiment to change, the market should have broken through this level right here, right? Now, because this is a swing high, we consider this an area of liquidity, right? If you zoom in right here, you also have this fake movement to the downside. And after the market creating this fake movement here, right, we got to push up to the upside. Now, where I was expecting the market to trade from or to sell was this area of supply, but we didn't sell from there. And I'm assuming it's because it's not in a discounted area, right? It's right in the 50% range. So the higher you go, the more cheaper this thing becomes, which is why I feel like price eventually broke it in quest of a higher demand zone. Currently, price reacted from this supply. Sorry, the market was looking for a higher supply, right? So this is where price reacted, right? If you compare this supply zone and this supply zone, this one is at a much premium price. You get what I'm saying? So that's what I think happened. Now we missed the opportunity to enter upon this retest right here, but I think we will get an opportunity to do so on a lower time frame, right? Also, if you zoom in, before we go to the 4-hour, you have this high over here, low over here, higher high, this break, and then this right here, this support over here turned into resistance, right? Now we had this fake out coming back. So this is a Quasimodo pattern. So that's why I think my sentiment is still bearish on this pair, right? So for now, I'm just looking for sell opportunities. And if we do get a valid sell opportunity, this is where I'm going to be taking my profit. So say, for example, this does not happen and price breaks to the upside. I'm waiting for a break above this area, and then we'll take it from there. So only if my sentiment or my bias gets invalidated will I change my whole approach or will I change my trading plan, right? But for now, I'm still bearish. I haven't gotten any confirmation that price will continue to the upside. I could be wrong, guys. But yeah, the main chat here is to follow your trading plan no matter what, right? So let's move on to the 4-hour. Now, if you move to the 4-hour, this is a low over here. The most recent low. Price went up in an uptrend, right? And now after this uptrend, we got a retest to this area over here, which was a fake out. So if you look at this high over here, you'll see that we got a grab of liquidity and now price is pushing lower. But I haven't received or haven't seen full confirmation that we're getting a drop to downside. So what I think I'm going to be waiting for in the coming week is a breakout from this low. If I get a breakout from this low, I'll look for an order block and my other confirmations. And this will be my sort of signal to end, right? We also see that we have this trend line over here approaching this supply level, right? And right now, price is looking to break through it, Why am I saying price is breaking through it? Because there's sell pressure on the zone. Ideally, with zones that are strong, especially demand zones or supply zones, you usually get a strong push away from that. But if you see price doodling and playing around that area for too long, that's a signal that price will break through this point. So these are my thoughts and sentiments on AUDUSD. We'll be monitoring this in the VIP group. So if you want to join the VIP group, make sure that you get in touch with me. But yeah, let's move on to another pair. Now we are on AUDCHF, and similar to how I analyzed AUDUSD, I'm not going to do an entire top down because we've already covered this pair in previous weeks. So this is just an update, right? But anyways, you can see that we had a grab of liquidity over here, and we were actually able to get an entry. For results, check the Telegram group. Use the link in the bio or in the description rather to subscribe to it if you still haven't joined it. So here we got a buy stop liquidity. Where did it go? It went into the supply. Didn't go like all the way in, but yeah, that's where it went, right? Now, my sentiment on this pair was bearish, right? And this will be my first take profit because it's an area of liquidity. This will be my second take profit because it's also an area of liquidity. You get what I mean? Now we should be looking for confirmations on the lower time frame, right? So here you see that we had this accumulation over here, which went up, right? Induced retail traders into buying. After they bought, it took liquidity and then started dropping. Now here we got a break of structure, unlike on AUDUSD, right? So this could be a potential signal that price is dropping, but we have this opposing demand, right? So even if demand is not correctly in line with the main time frame or with the main trend rather, excuse me, we always consider it, as long as it hasn't been broken through, we consider it to be valid. Now, the one thing that I feel like will make the zone to be invalid is the fact that price is playing too much on the zone. Now, one could argue that this is just a grab of liquidity and we might see a strong push to the upside. Now, that's true, right? We might get a strong push because it's a grab of liquidity. There's still a lot of imbalances to fill in here, and we might get our trade from this zone, which is an equal high, right? That could happen. But what I'm saying is, or what I think will happen, is I don't necessarily think that we should be buying from the zone. You get what I mean? So this is the first scenario. Let's assume that on a lower time frame, this is an area of liquidity because it's low. The market is just tapping into liquidity. In the coming week, Monday, we'll get a false movement to the upside, maybe, right? Or price can just continue to the downside until it invalidates this area by breaking through it. You get what I mean? Am I making sense? I hope I'm making sense to somebody. So for me, the zone is just a barrier and a level that the market needs to break in order for my bias to be confirmed. So how I'm going to approach this pair will depend on what happens during the first part of next week, right? But I do believe that we're dropping, mainly because we were in this uptrend, we had this low over here, we violated it with this push, creating a new low, and then we created a lower high, right? Now I'm waiting to jump onto that lower high or that corrective move that might happen in the coming weeks. And then if we do get that movement, this is where I'm going to be taking profit. So these are my thoughts on AUDCHF. Let's move on to another pair. Right. Now we are on EURJPY, and I'm not going to start from scratch because this is an update, right? We are catching up. So in the previous weeks, I think I was expecting price to move to this area over here. Now price recently retested the supply zone. We know that we're in a long-term uptrend, right? So we should be looking for buy opportunities, right? Currently, price supply is in control because the market retested supply. And if you look at the distance between supply and our demand, we are in a middle ground, meaning that on that area, there is no force that exceeds another. On the middle ground, you almost have equal amounts of buyers and sellers. There is no force that's greater than the other. Whereas if we were higher, we would say that at least we're in a seller's territory. If we were lower, we would say we're in a buyer's territory. You get what I mean? So currently, supply is in control. We're in a middle ground if you look at the distance between these two opposing supply levels. And then number three, price is approaching the zone. Now, the one thing that I expected, especially from the zone, was a consolidation away. What I said is, if we got a candlestick that at least consolidated away from this zone, right, like this one, even if we got one candlestick that was strong, if it got to this area, I was definitely buying. This is not to suggest, sorry, that price will eventually or automatically bounce off this area and then start to create new highs. In the actual fact, price can take this liquidity from this low and continue downwards, right? But we're taking a trade regardless. Why? Because we're relying on higher time frame zones. I hope I'm making sense, guys. So if you look at the daily, we took our liquidity here, price went into the supply, and now we are approaching this nested demand as planned. We still have this imbalance, this huge amount of orders to fill, and that's what I'm expecting in the coming weeks. So if price breaks through this demand zone and continues downwards, that will be a conversation for when that happens. But for now, this is what I'm going to do in the coming week on EURJPY. So yes, watch the other breakdowns if you're feeling kind of lost. Let's move on to another pair. Right, now we are on the dollar index. For those who follow my weekly market breakdowns, you will know that I usually analyze from scratch. The reason why I'm not doing that this week is because the market has been dry, right? There hasn't been a lot of movement. So from the last time we looked at these pairs, nothing much has happened. So this is why I'm not doing as I used to. You get what I mean? But yeah, now we are looking at the dollar index, and this is one of the things or one of the securities that we looked at in the previous weeks. I was actually expecting a movement to the upside, right, given certain confirmations. And now we have this bullish push, right, of which I don't know if it's a signal that in the coming weeks, we should be expecting a continuation of the bullish pressure. But what we know so far is that we're in an uptrend, right? Demand is in control, right? We are approaching a seller's territory, or we are approaching a supply zone, right? So even though sell opportunities are not going to be high profit or high probability, rather, the opportunities could still be valid. This only means that you should be trading with caution, if you get what I mean. So if you go to the daily, this is actually a zone where I was expecting the market to react, right? And we got our reaction, right? So a point of interest for me will be this high or this supply. Rather, I'm expecting the market to break through this supply. If it does, then I'm happy, right? It means that the uptrend has been confirmed. But this is the barrier that price has to go through. So for the first few days of the week, I'm expecting a push to the upside, right? And I can also justify it by looking at these imbalances over here, right? What happens after then is a conversation for that time. But I'm expecting a breakout. You get me? And then if we do not get a breakout, the zone will be cancelled out. Why? Because we already have liquidity over here, number one. We already have a weak departure on that zone, number two. So there isn't a lot of orders that are waiting to be triggered. So the only plan for price is to break through it and search for zones that are a bit lower. You get it? So that's option number two from here, right? These are my thoughts on the dollar index. Let's move on to our final pair of the week, which is CADJPY. Right. Now we're on CADJPY, the weekly. And as you can see, price has been creating new highs and new lows, right? That's the first thing you need to note. So we're in an uptrend. This is our low. All right, we got into this area over here, created a new low. So what actually happened was a few weeks ago, we got an opportunity to buy from this area over here, right? Grab liquidity over here. And now this is our most recent high. That price still hasn't broken through. Now, the reason why it hasn't broken through that area was because this area of supply was acting as a barrier. Now, immediately when you look at this area of supply, you can see what the problem is with this supply, right? The fact that we are playing too much on this area. Although you can argue that there is sell pressure, right? This demand zone over here cannot be confirmed why it hasn't resulted in a break of structure, right? So let me just recap. The first thing we can see is that trend-wise, we're in an uptrend, right? Supply is in control. So the two things that you need to consider before taking a trade is which area on the higher time frame is in control, and number two, what's your supply and demand curve, or where is price relative to the supply and demand curve, right? So if supply is in control on a higher time frame and you're in a supplier's territory, even if you have an opportunity to buy on a lower time frame, you shouldn't take it, because technically speaking, the higher time frame is still against you, right? So SD curve, right? Let's go to the weekly. I'm to the daily. All right, when you look at the daily, you can see that we had this uptrend over here, and we have these lows over here that were violated. I think it will be much clearer when you go to the lower time frame. We had this area over here, right, where liquidity was taken, and now it looks like price wants to drop, right? Now, although we're in a long-term downtrend, long-term uptrend, let me be fair. Do I think that we should take this trade? We have this failure swing. We have this failure swing, right? Supply is in control. We're in a seller's territory. If we were to take this out, right, where can we buy? High probability buys can be found in a nested area. So really now, for us to get confirmations to sell, I need to look at the lower time frame. What we can consider on the lower time frame is a breakout from the structure. If we get a breakout from the structure and a proper retest, then I think a sell can be justified. Get what I mean? But yeah, it's a risky setup. I do acknowledge that, but it's a setup that you really need to consider. And even if you can argue that there's this demand zone over here, it's already been used up. Price has retested this area more than 3 times. I mean, more than 2 times already. 1, 2, 3 already. So it's used up, right? So yes, these are my thoughts and sentiments on CADJPY. But for now, this is all I have for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it was short. My videos are usually long, but yeah, we'll talk about this as the days progress. If you enjoyed this and you still haven't subscribed, please make sure that you subscribe and also like this video, because it helps with the YouTube algorithm. For now, I'll see you guys soon. Peace.